And welcome once again to your show, Lideres del Futuro. My name is Rafael Vasquez. Remember, my show is on KBBF Bilingual Radio, kbbf.org. And today I want to talk about preparing for the fire season. For many individuals in California, we now have a fire season. This started in 2017. And the fire season starts much earlier each year. So in 2020, the fire season was around August. But the city of Santa Rosa in Northern California, they already started the fire season for 2021 in the mid of May. And therefore, it's important that we continue to get ready for the fire season again in Northern California and in other places where you may be. And so when we talk about the fire season, we need to make sure that we understand that we're talking about recognizing what's going on and being aware of what is going on at the time. And so if you have access to your cell phone, you can go onto Nixle and basically you just text your zip code to 888-777. And as a result of that, any police department that provides services in that zip code, any sheriff's office that provides services in that zip code will be able to send you messages in case of an emergency. It's not just about fire emergencies. Sometimes there may be an accident on the road. Sometimes there may be some other issue that you need to be aware of. And as a result of that, again, it's important that you sign up for Nixle. You put your zip code and then you send that message to 888-777, and you will be able to get mobile alert. Also, and this is something that people often are not aware of with this program named Nixle, is that you can also put different zip codes. So let's say you live in one zip code and your family members, your colleagues maybe live, 10 miles away. You can put that zip code as well, and they will be able to, that police department, that sheriff's department will be sending messages for that zip code as well. And that way, maybe your mom or your grandma lives far away, you will know if there is an emergency that you need to be aware of. And so the other piece that is important here is during fire season, it's important that you keep your phone charged at all times, and especially at night, right? So if it is a major emergency, often your phone will vibrate and it will make noise and everything else, but it doesn't happen all the time. And so it's important that you have enough time to be able to gather the essentials and be able to get out. And so it's important that you prepare ahead of time. And for that reason, you need to have your phone ready and be aware when an emergency is happening. The next thing that you need to be aware of and prepare for is you need to make an emergency plan. Again, you need to determine as a family at least two routes that you're going to take in case one is blocked by a fire, then you can take a different one. This applies as well in case of an earthquake. And so if there is an earthquake, what are you going to do? Which direction you're going to take? The more routes, the more ways that you have to get out of your area, out of your house, the better. The other issue that happens on a regular basis in this situation is everybody thinks of maybe the highway or the freeway. And so those places may be packed, but are there other side roads that can get you out of your home? That is what you planned with your family. Also, if an accident happens, whether it is a major fire or maybe an earthquake or other immediate situation where your family may be at work and somebody else may be at school and nobody is able to come back because the roads to your home are closed, you need to agree in a meeting location in case you cannot come back. So let's say we're going to meet outside of somebody's school, or maybe we're going to meet in the parking lot of the shopping center where we know that there's less likelihood that there's going to be an emergency there. If you have a plan, it makes it easier. And so a lot of people say, well, but that's okay. We're going to have our cell phones. Well, sometimes in an emergency, the government actually shuts down some of the cell system in order for emergency vehicles and personnel to have uninterrupted communication. So don't just rely on the cell phone. This brings me to the other thing, and that is have a phone number of someone who lives outside of the area. So if you have an uncle that lives 50 miles away, it doesn't mean you're going to make it there, but it means that you call that person and you say, I am at the meeting location. I don't know if my cell phone is going to be working, but in case my child calls, let them know I'm at the meeting location. Or there's a change of plans. The meeting location is no longer accessible, and we are changing the meeting location to a different place. And so those numbers should be memorized. Your family member's phone number should be memorized always. Do not rely on the cell phone. If the cell phone falls and breaks and is no longer accessible, there's no point on having the cell phone. You have to memorize these numbers. And so that's important. And then everybody should have an emergency kit. And the emergency kit should have multiple things. Water. For example, 1 gallon of water per person in the family for at least a few days. And so this is for drinking and is for sanitation. Food, and this is food that is going to be at least for 3 days, and food that is not going to go bad. So canned food, for example. And in some counties, the cities have been distributing emergency kits, and they don't often give you a lot of food, but this is the food packages that will last you up to 5 years and it will not go bad. And so those are the things that you should always have in your emergency kit. And then a battery power or hand crank radio. And again, in some locations in the community, lately, at least in California, some of the county services with money from FEMA have been distributing some of these radios and also some of these flashlights, or mechanical flashlights that you operate by using your hand and pressing on them or cranking them. And so those items are essential. And a weather radio. Again, that is something that should be there, and it should be one that again doesn't require batteries, but that you can operate by hand crank in order to make it work. So it's important for you to keep that in mind. And a first aid kit, and often people don't think about the first aid kit, but also think about the first aid kit not just for you, but maybe you run into somebody who got injured as they were leaving their home, and you can provide a service to that individual or individuals. Extra batteries if you have a flashlight that requires batteries, and a whistle in order to be able to signal for help. Maybe you are trapped and you need to tell people. Maybe shouting doesn't work, but again, that whistle, and it uses less energy sometimes. N95 type masks or KN95. And again, it's important that you have a pack and enough for at least 2 times for you to replace at least once for each family member. Put them in Ziploc bags. That way they don't get dust on them and they also don't get wet. Plastic sheeting and duct tape in order to create some type of shelter if you need to. Again, one of the things that people often don't think about until they're in the middle of it, and is the smoke. So the N95 masks, the plastic sheeting, and duct tape are essential. Garbage bags and plastic ties that can also be used for multiple purposes, and so it's important that you carry some of those. A wrench or pliers so that when you're leaving home, you can turn off the utilities. That is something that people don't think about. And then again, the fire can just go into your home and it's easier to create an explosion, perhaps, and then you lose everything you had. But by turning off the utilities, it makes it harder for the fire to continue and create more destruction. A manual can opener for those canned foods, and again, local maps on paper that you keep in a Ziploc bag. Because again, assume that your cell phone is not going to work, and this way you'll find your way out of your area, out of your home, and into a safe space. You should always carry some hand sanitizer, especially now that we're dealing with COVID-19. The same thing for the N95 masks, wipes, soap, right? Medications. So if you have prescribed medications, again, you should have everything close to putting it in a Ziploc bag at the moment. In a moment's notice, you put it in there, and then you're ready to go. And it's important that you put it in a Ziploc bag. That way, if for some situation you end up unconscious, a firefighter or an EMT, a paramedic will be able to immediately find out what type of medications you have so that they don't give you a medication that may cause more harm than good. And then non-prescription medications like pain relievers are essential during these times again. So maybe you're going to end up with a headache and you want to make sure that you take care of yourself. Prescription eyeglasses. So if you use eyeglasses, you should always have an extra pair ready in this emergency kit. You should also have some pet food and extra water ready in case you have pets. Cash, a little bit of cash. It doesn't have to be a lot of cash, but a little bit of cash, because if the electricity goes out and you stop by your bank or credit union, and there is no point on going there if you're not going to be able to access your money. And again, in a Ziploc bag, important documents such as home insurance, life insurance paperwork, passports, birth certificates, bank records, and those should be digitized. And several other items should be digitized and password protected. And again, those should be in a Ziploc bag so that anywhere where you are, you will have access to that information. And then at least two change of clothing. That is essential as well, right? You need to have clean clothes for at least 2 times. A fire extinguisher. Again, this is not just about your house, your car, but maybe you're running out there and you find out that somebody else's vehicle caught on fire, or there's a need for you to use it either way. So a fire extinguisher is an essential tool for your toolkit here. Matches, and these are the waterproof matches, the ones that you should have in case you need them during the emergency. Feminine products. Again, sometimes we just think about ourselves, but in this situation, feminine products, it could be that at the shelter where you're going, nobody has feminine products and somebody needs them. Again, we always have to think about our community as well. Paper and pencil, those are essential. You need to take notes, you need to take directions, you need to write some important information that is coming in. Paper and pencil. Books and games for children, especially if you have your own children. Again, don't think video games here, but think about board games or something similar to that so that they're not bored out there wherever you are for a couple of days. Paper cups, plates, and eating utensils. You should have some of those again in plastic bags in case you have to be out there for a while. And then you have to keep this kit near the door for easy access. You literally, if you have a garage, you put it near where the vehicle parks so that you open the trunk, you throw everything in there, and you're out in a couple of minutes. For water, it gets heavy. So one of the things that is always recommended is if you use a container with wheels so that you can put it in the trunk, but if for whatever reason you get a couple of flat tires and instead of having to carry all that water, you just pull everything out and roll it with you and it's much, much easier. And then one of the things that is important again is to keep some of these items always in your car, at your job, maybe at your office, in case you cannot come home. So an extra couple change of clothing, perhaps a fire extinguisher. Some of these items should always be in your car. And if you work in an office, you should always have a bag in case you have to stay in your office and not be able to leave for a few hours or a day. Once you made it to a safe space, again, local shelters are often created for people who have lost their homes or in case the fire is moving still, the cities, the counties tend to create local shelters where you can stay temporarily. And again, with that, it is important for you to continue to check on updates. If the shelter is there, they usually provide people with an opportunity to take a shower, use a restroom, cots for you to sleep at night. Due to COVID, it has created some unique challenges. So some people prefer to sleep in their vehicle. If that is the case, you want to be close to the door so that nobody comes and harasses you, or nobody breaks into your vehicle or tries to break into your vehicle at night. And so it is important for you to go to these type of shelters. Often they have police officers in the area to keep everybody safe, and there's often volunteers. The other thing that I always remind people is, even if you are the one who lost your home or simply are not able to get back home for now, volunteer at the shelter where you're staying. It keeps you from really just getting anxiety attacks and panic attacks because you don't know what's happening. It keeps you focused on something else. It distracts you from something that you cannot control. The fire cannot be controlled by you. So focus on something that you can control when you're in the shelter. Offer to support people with food or whatever volunteer work that needs to be done there. And if you have family members outside the area, again, update family members. Sometimes if FEMA comes in, or the Red Cross or some other service comes in, they often create landlines where you can call family members to update them as to your location and how you're doing emotionally and physically. And so these are some of the basics. And then when you're ready to come home, again, don't come home until it is safe to do so. Wait until law enforcement has secured the location. Wait until you're able to come back. Sometimes people choose to stay and not leave their home when they are told to do so. And then later on, they put themselves into tragic situations. Or they try to sneak back into their homes. And as a result of that, they can also put themselves in danger. In the fires of 2020 in Northern California, there were a couple of situations where community members snuck past the police and the fire units to get back to their homes. And, the fire department had to leave the area where they were fighting a fire to go save the lives of these people. And as a result of that, there was one or two firefighters who ended up injured because these people neglected their own safety and the safety of other individuals. So this is just a brief introduction again, and we want to make sure that you can also go and check out the CAL FIRE website if you live in California, and they have a lot of additional resources. My name is Rafael Vasquez, and this is your show, Líderes del Futuro. My website is lideresdelfuturo.org, and I'm on KBBF Bilingual Radio at kbbf.org, Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. You're welcome to listen to the information I have to share with you. Thank you for your time.